Thanks, Jill. Much appreciate everybody's time here today. This is really an exciting panel in the sense of sleep, but before I go there, I just want to reference this badge that I'm wearing because you may see this around CES a fair amount today, hopefully. And the badge says simply, Je suis Charlie, and it's referencing the terrorist attack that happened in Paris. And of course, I don't want to get into the news around that, but what I've learned, if nothing else, is that the way the white hats win is by putting positive energy into the world with passion and commitment. I have that passion and commitment for writing. Cedric has that passion and commitment for moving the needle in health, wellness, and healthcare. And David Cloud has the same passion relative to the National Sleep Foundation. So it's an exciting group. Another reason for that is because Cedric's company, Withings, is actually headquartered in Paris. So this is a testament to the worldwide solidarity around the events that are happening and unfolding literally as I speak. But speaking of passion, I wanted to kick this off with Withings in particular because this year, like years before here at CES, you're up for no less than 3, I think, innovation awards. And so help us understand the excitement around that.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for this kind words. And so we've been, I think, keep on developing a range and full ecosystem of health sensors. But health sensors, sounds very boring. So we work hard to make cool and sexy devices, I should say, that can be lifestyle devices that happens to surround us or that we happen to wear, and that will gather some useful data and generate some actionable dashboards. So we've been now just announcing POP, which is, for me, the new face of activity trackers. We have seen the dynamics on these wearables activity trackers, and in some case, we have to repeat ourselves that they are wearables, because they are not that wearables. It's really about having something you have to recharge every 2 other days, to wonder whether it's waterproof or not, maybe to press a button to read time, etc. So our first product that got awarded, and we were very excited when we see this feedback, is an obvious device. It's an actual watch that happens to get these motion sensors to assess whether you're making enough steps, but also recognize the run and sleep stations, but not in an intimidating way, and on just a watch that happens to work for 8 months battery life, and again is not requiring you to manage.
Right. So last year, though, you actually announced the sleep product, which is Aura, and I actually happened to write about it as a function of CES, which I do every year, in the sense of looking at products that have the potential to move the needle. And I don't know, is Sunny here, Sunny Vu? Because his quote is golden in the sense of wearables in general, when he says they either need to be invisible or gorgeous. And the reason I wrote about Aura last year, which was also up for an innovation award, was because it was invisible. It's one of the first, if not only, sleep products that is designed not to be truly wearable in the sense that it goes under the mattress. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I can not only more with Sunny's statement, and it's really the mindset we have when we develop each our device. Because why he says that, I think what we share is that what it matters is really remain in our daily life on the long term, either because you've loved as a product and you like to be worn, or because you really disappear. And that's a very important point, because we're talking about behavioral change, improving our health, and that's only fly if it's long term. So the way we approach sleep monitoring is really that we thought that there was not other ways that to turn the bed as sleep sensors and anything else. And I'm sure everybody knows that you can put a smartphone under your pillow for a couple of nights to assess some parameters. You can wear something, press a button, all that will not remain for long. So we were up to a design of a pad or sleep pad that goes under the mattress. Once it's set up, it's forgotten. And it really turns the bed as the sleep sensors.
Yeah. So David, help me understand, I think with the National Sleep Foundation, there's a poll every year that's the American Sleep Poll. Tell me more about that.
Thank you, Dan. The National Sleep Foundation has been doing a Sleep in America poll since 1991, which is a baseline on the sleep trends, attitudes, opinions. We do use a probabilistic sample, and to the extent possible, with a poll, we're trying to determine what the trends are in sleep in America. For the most part, we've been disappointed in that. Going on 25 years now, we're looking at some pretty disappointing trends where sleep duration, satisfaction with sleep, the number of people who are reporting that they're dissatisfied with their sleep continues to grow. I mean, we're looking at north of 70 million Americans who are dissatisfied with their sleep.
So that goes to a great point in the sense of changing or modifying behavior.
Absolutely. I mean, we're a cause-based organization, so we're public-facing, much like the American Heart Association. So our job is to sell Americans on the benefits of sleep. It's a health-promoting behavior, and unfortunately, while many of us were told by our mothers and given good advice about getting good sleep, somehow we forget it along the way, and it's getting worse as time goes on.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize that 7-Eleven as an organization has more outlets than McDonald's worldwide. We're in a town here that is literally 7/24. New York applauds itself on the city that never sleeps. So in a culture that doesn't necessarily reward sleep, right, you really have
It's a tough job. It's a tough job. And, you know, I think that while we're adults and we can make these decisions, we make trade-offs. We decide that, yes, it's more worthwhile for us to spend an extra hour finishing that book, or this is meaningful work and I need to get it done. It's actually our teenagers that we should be most concerned about. The gap between the number of hours they should be sleeping and the hours they are sleeping is alarming. It literally represents an epidemic in the U.S. And in many other parts of the world. Our kids have so many distractions, and it's just harder to police children, and it's getting younger and younger. We did a poll a few years ago where we found an alarming number of teens, 13 to 19, that had routinely admitted receiving and sending text messages after they had initiated sleep. Yeah, that's bizarre. And we thought, my God, they're updating their Facebook page in the middle of the night. And then we repeated that, and we found it also was true in the 18 to 29-year-old group. So this is going to continue. It's part of our culture. And, you know, frankly, one of the strange things was that we looked at this, and we looked at the things that some of the pioneers like Cedric and Sonny, Fitbit, and whatnot were doing, and we realized that they also were going to give us the solution that we needed. And that was the reason we reached out to consumer electronics and said, you know, we think it's time. We can help. We have a roadmap. We understand what the sensors do from 50 years worth of research. We can help guide this in a responsible way. And frankly, we're extremely pleased with not only what we see here, the digital health, but in the convention centers, all of them, the amount of emphasis on sleep. We really are encouraged by what we see as both the genius, and the amount of investment, venture capital, and enthusiasm for this. And frankly, I think that it's been done quite responsibly to date.
So, Cedric, your company was founded in 2009, I think? 2008, sorry, and is up to about 160 employees worldwide in 3 facilities. You started on the weight side, and then pretty quickly moved into sleep. How was it that you sort of made that conscious decision from an engineering perspective?
So, you know, we started with a smart scale with a kind of engineer mindset, which was we wanted to fix the fact that, you know, to our mind it really looks like a dumb device. We happen to step on it from time to time. It generates, triggers an emotion. It's immediately forgotten, It's not about recording, getting some history. We all know that, you know, getting some action is first about tracking and seeing the progress. So we wanted to really make the first useful scale. So that's the way we developed the first product. And what we learned as a return of experience and from our first users is that, and that we really truly underestimate at that time, it was a behavioral change tool. And that we really did not foresee at the beginning. And we got a ton of feedback and testimonial of people, especially in the US, sharing with us with much enthusiasm how they change their behavior without having to make a big decision about it, but just by having these trends, fresh trends, and feedback, you know, in their pocket, on smartphone, on app, without, again, having changed much their routine and daily routine. So we decided at that time to really extend and focus on what we call now, you know, connected health and providing tools for change behavior. And we think there are fundamental dimension. So weight, you know, all of understanding, you know, our level of activity. And the next one, obvious for us, was the sleep quality, which is at the same time an input and outcome of all these other dimension.
Awesome. So I'm very data driven. And obviously, the first step in the evolution is to give consumers insight into their own data. Does Withings do you have access to that data? Do consumers get a chance to opt in to participate in sharing some of this data with you?
So we have many of such programs. So we have been, I think, quite pioneers in this, you know, open API approach to make sure that this new, you know, really true new data. Once you get this sensor in your daily life, we generate a new kind of data that a lot of people or stakeholders have been dreaming of. So the first thing is to make it usable, is to provide convenient way to share it. So it's not only, I think, about, you know, claim or state, this is your data. Obviously, our users' data is their data, but we also, you know, on top of that, have to provide convenient way to have your data flow to the right, you know, application or, you know, to database, aggregate anonymous database, where we can work, you know, with scientists, with organizations, also to drive some insights. So we have been, you know, since 2009, having building this API. But on top of that, we're also very active in looking at any new opportunities. And, you know, in the past years, there have many new opportunities of tools to share and have this data being exchanged. You know, key is that it has to be secure. It has to be very well and educated, very well described for end users. So, of course, it's your own data. It's sensible data, and you have to be fully in control of it. I think there is only benefits for everybody to provide convenient way to have this data, you know, flow.
Yep. So that raises another question. It's a great product in the sense of the sleep category, but if you go out on the showroom floor here, there's dozens of others as well in the same sort of sleep category. Is the National Sleep Foundation involved in helping to bridge the sort of standards that we might need relative to this data?
Well, we are, and we're pretty ecstatic at this point with the initial response. There was a panel just an hour or so ago where we looked at and premiered it, the progress to date on the standards group. It's a joint effort with the Consumer Electronics Association. Pretty much all the industry players are either there now or they're certainly welcome to participate. And the effort at this point has fairly resolved the definitions. What do we call things? We have already a laboratory benchmark that we can apply the standard against. So the next phase is then describing what the wearable terminology would be, and then start looking at the performance of it. So again, this is early stage and will enable all of the interconnectivity, interoperability, and also it'll allow people to come up with other genius ideas for how they make applications, because frankly, collecting the data is not complete. It has to be converted into information that's actionable for the individual, and that may be crossing weight with sleep. It certainly crossing weight with sleep is going to be a powerful stimulus for people to change their behavior. But there's others. It may be things as mundane as the amount of caffeine consumed, or certain foods that they might consume, or their performance the next day as evaluated from measures that aren't even on the showroom floor today, but may be soon.
Awesome. So I've seen at least one list that suggests that there are 10 clinical associations with sleep, and there's probably a dozen more that we don't know about yet. Some of them are sort of just coming now or percolating to the top, maybe Alzheimer's, maybe dementia, some of these others. Is there an opportunity? I'll give you an example. So Walgreens manages to collect data monthly from about 1 million people using Fitbits that they reward for providing that data. Walgreens can use that in a variety of ways, obviously. Is there an opportunity for something similar? And is Withings looking at that relative to partnerships for a similar category in sleep?
So, having the way some corporations, some organizations are fostering increased level of activity, providing some rewards, has been now out there now for a while. I think it's very integrating ideas to have it extended to sleep. I mean, we have not seen today, major initiative on the same concept with sleep. It's really about I think we have to take care of the user acceptance on this matter, because obviously sleep is about intimate environment. It's not about your public and daily activity for sure. So it's I think it will be managed a bit differently.
Well, I would go further and say that I hope so. Because, and I think Walgreens is a great example, a great mover. I'd love to see insurance companies take a more active interest in incenting this sort of healthy behavior. You've seen a little bit in the wellness community on weight loss and sort of unhealthy behaviors like smoking cessation, but healthy behaviors, I think it's a little bit more difficult to make the return on investment. But I believe that it's possible, because it's far more than 10 health conditions that have a signal that comes from sleep. Almost any time you're ill, it's manifest in a sleep change.
Yeah. We talked about it a little bit in the sense of kids and sleep. Maybe that's another way in the sense of motivating parents around sleep. But another product in the sleep category is also up for an innovation award here at CES that's specifically designed for kids. Is that something that you're looking at as well? Or, I mean, it seems like your product would be a simple add-on for any bed, regardless of the size.
Yes, for sure, and I think so. This product from the 7 Hugs is really a great product on how to bring sleep quality awareness for family members and kids in a engaging and fun way. So really get into this go to sleep routine with this base and color system and very basic sensors in each of the beds. So we think it's very interesting approach.
And actually, I was impressed with their product as well. And of note, it has certain qualities that or sensors that are looking at air quality, for instance, for benzenes and formaldehyde, for instance, as well as humidity and other measures that you don't see and you wouldn't ordinarily think of as sleep promoting environmental factors, but clearly light, temperature, humidity, as well as the surfaces themselves, are all going to ultimately come into the equation and can be part of the prescription for improving your sleep. So it's not just medical related sleep change, it's behavioral, it's environmental, and that's what makes sleep so fascinating. It is a very, very dynamic process, and also it's a third of your life.
Yeah. So we've only got a couple minutes left. I did want to make sure that there was time enough for questions. If anybody has those, feel free to sort of walk up to a microphone and I'll try and get them inserted. One of the questions I had is that we travel as a world now. We're portable and mobile in ways that we never used to be. Is there a portable version of Aura that's sort of on the radar, or anything else that?
So, Aura is, and thanks to bring this point on the comfort and environment, there are certain things we can do to, enhance the environments. So this Aura has two parts and the bedside device. So unfortunately, it's not that wearables today, but it's really about, generating the right light and audio patterns for a better go to sleep and wake up experience. So of course it's not a medicine, it's not about treating, but also about generating better and well-known for well-known reason better environment for a good sleep experience. So this version is not wearable yet.
Not yet, coming. So there is a question.
Yeah, I'm a physician and blogger, or digital health blogger. And I noticed that in my own life and with my patients, I think a lot of times the biggest thing that we talk about is sleep hygiene. You kind of briefly mentioned it, like caffeine, exposure to screens. I know I watch like Netflix every time I'm going to sleep, and I know my patient, we tell patients, don't use electronic displays for 4 hours before you sleep. But the reality is I think most of us do. And so I guess my question is how can we better help inform people and try to actually change that type of behavior? Because I think that's a big problem.
Well, my first recommendation would be not to call it sleep hygiene, because that automatically turns people off. And it's not necessarily a patient-friendly term. But I certainly understand your point. I'd really love to see physicians take a leadership role in sleep and educating. And they can begin, for instance, by being role models, by wearing wearables, by talking about sleep with their patients, by using sleep and recording it in their electronic record. A year ago, we worked pretty extensively with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid to try to introduce in the EHR through a policy provision, which would have made it mandatory for sleep to be recorded in every physician visit. And one of the stunning things that Medicare learned as part of that dialogue with us, and it took months, was that sleep is one of the only conditions that applies to every medical visit, every type, every category, and for every condition. And they were stunned when they thought about that. They asked people height, which has very little clinical relevance, but they don't ask sleep. And we'd love to see that paradigm shift, and we do believe that physicians should be leading it.
Awesome. Another question.
We've been hearing a lot about all this data that's being collected not being very actionable, and that we're just generating mountains of data. And I'm just wondering if you can share any statistics around improved quality or quantity of sleep from people actually using your technologies.
So we've been sharing some data on a certain correlation between the level of activity that we've seen, start to see between level of activity and sleep quality. In a way, not only the length, but the kind of, the quality of sleep. So we are, putting today some anonymous data. So there is a website that is today still in French, but I invite you to see. You will see a link on our Withings website, where we start to display those aggregate data and anonymous, of course, data that I invite you to check.
But I guess what I'm saying is, if you have the data now on your users, can you say now that people who use our sleep tracker tend to get 30 minutes more sleep or tend to have X% improvement in quality?
So I think on sleep we are very careful, and we'll certainly not claim that. It's not about again a treatment. So we have come up with some product that adds some improvement on the environment. We've shown in aggregate dashboard on the application some advice, and we've been growing on the kind of advice that we give, but we'll be very careful on not claiming that we treat in any way any sleep disorder.
Awesome. Well, our time is up. Jill, thanks again.
Thank you.
And Cedric and David, thanks for your time today.